like any good fighting match, you always leave the best match for last. It's our title match, I guess you could say. Bell. Okay. This is debate for SGA president. These questions will be the director to bring a little bit more controversy and bring a little bit more discussion in. I think that you all should feel free to discuss your differences, but I also want to make sure that we do so in a way that is very cordial and a discussion. So, but with that, I offered you all 1 minute apiece to have as an opening statement. So with that, we will play our last game of Guess This Number. Just as clarification, Jeremy won with a guess of 9 3/4. But like in football, he chose to defer to the second half and decided to go last. Oh, he doesn't know what football is, so Carrie being the furthest from the number is going to go first. So Carrie, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. First of all, I want to express my appreciation for how many people are here tonight. I've attended every SGA debate since I've been a student at U of L, and I think that we've quadrupled any attendance we've ever had, and that's definitely a testament to how important this election is. My name is Carrie, and I'm running for SGA president. I could list for you my accomplishments both inside and outside of SGA, but I realize that it takes more than just experience to do a great job as president. Candidates must be evaluated on the quality of their ideas, and my ideas have been shaped from my numerous roles inside SGA. First off, I served as a task force freshman, and I knew what it felt like to be both underutilized and overutilized. I served as a senator who was called upon by the SGA president time and time again to take leadership on an initiative and to put that into place. I also know what it's like to represent the student body president on the board of student body presidents, and I know what it is like to serve as a member of Top 4 and to keep true to my promise, which was to make the A+ initiative happen. I look forward to sharing my ideas with you to make a better U of L, but first and foremost for its students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is AJ Bucci. I am a junior here at U of L. I double major in accounting and marketing, and I'm from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Some of the activities I've done on this campus, to name a few here, I've served as an ambassador for the Cultural Center under Michael Anthony. I have served and currently serve as the president of the Student Sales Network in the College of Business. And I have served since the second semester of my freshman year as a resident assistant at Kurz Hall. So you're all wondering, to get down to it, why am I here? This is probably something you won't hear from any of the other candidates tonight, but I am not passionate about student government. I do, however, have an enormous passion for this university and for its students, and that's the reason I'm here tonight. One final thing, I want to make sure that that's the last bit of information I give you about me tonight, because this evening it's about you, the students, and what we can do really to improve our campus community. Thank you.
I'm actually going to try to stand and do this. We'll see how this works.
Gotta show off the shoes, right?
Right? It's
Every guy has a good pair of shoes.
Okay. Are you ready, Karen? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremy Bozarth. I am a senior industrial engineering student. I'm running with Cardinal Revolution, and I want to be your SGA president next year. 4 years ago, I came to this campus, fall 2009, and I paid about $8,000 per year for tuition. Present day, spring 2013, I'm paying $9,500. That's an increase of about $500 every year. Tuition hikes and budget cuts are something I think we can all relate to. And in fact, raise your hand if you feel you've been affected by this. That'd be about everyone who's been here more than 1 year. I believe this is something that we need to fight, and I may not be able to go right away and go into reducing tuitions, but it's something we can't fight for unnecessary fees that we pay for right now. And it's something I'll get into later, because it'll be much more than 1 minute to get into it. But something definitely look into. We want to fight the athletic fee, either reduce it, get rid of it, as well as I want to talk to you guys about the technology fee that's coming up. Thank you, and we'll get into it later, and I'm excited for this debate. So.
Jeremy, we'll take this. This question is for all of you. All these questions are for all of you. This question you can take first, and you're going to have a minute to kind of elaborate on it. Be as specific as you can. Jeremy just mentioned that the university has been going under many budget cuts, and many graduate assistantships and doctoral fellowship programs have been cut by their departments. What role as an SGA president would you take to help ensure the University of Louisville begins to rebuild these graduate programs?
All right, I'm going to sit down for this one instead of standing up again. I think it's important to first look at where our money is going currently. Because I definitely think it's very important to put money in towards graduate assistantships, because honestly where a lot of our big names can come in is from our graduate studies, our professional students doing real amazing research here. And for example, I think that the fact that we have a $50 athletic fee for the truly out of date is something we can put that money towards different places. So reallocating the athletic fee to either go towards graduate students assistantships and fellowships is really important, and just advocating for that. So I think the first and foremost thing is to reach out to students, especially graduate students and undergraduate students, and see where they want the money going and go from there. And I'm open to talking to anybody about that. So I think that's time.
I just thought you were pointing at us. Wonderful. All right, so to answer this question, I agree with Jeremy. I like what he said about funding the graduate assistantships and why that is a significant thing that any university really partakes in. Jeremy mentioned that obviously research is a component. However, I think the diversity that those graduate assistants bring to any university that they attend is also very important. When you come to looking at the budget, obviously we have a substantial budget, but at the same time, money doesn't truly grow on trees, although I wish it did. And so we'd be looking at areas where we can conserve. In the residence hall, we have a lot going on. It's not truly about hugging a tree, but we're looking to go green and really conserve on our electricity, things of that nature. And a few solar panels here or there could really end up funding a graduate assistantship. So.
Since I've been a member of SGA, graduate issues have always been somewhat of an afterthought. We make a decision in Senate or as SGA, and then a graduate student stands up and says something about, well, how will this affect us? And then we have to retroactively go back and decide how we will address that issue and that inequity and allocating some of this money. As SGA president, I would look forward to serving as a member on the board of trustees, where you get to have a very powerful voice in setting the university budget. And as a member of Top 4 now, we have multiple meetings with the budget office, and we get to see scenario A through scenario Z. And I think that that is beneficial because we can lobby and advocate for things where we think funds are being cut. And graduate assistantships may be rather expensive, so it may be something that increases may have to be phased in over the years. But one element in my platform that I'm very excited about and that I think will benefit both graduate and undergraduate students is increasing money in the SGA travel fund. I think that it is significantly underutilized and should be utilized more for research-based trips.
that we'll do 30 seconds for a rebuttal for Jeremy, and then AJ, and then Carrie will end up having something to say. You can have the last one. 30 seconds.
All right, I just actually want to point out, I totally agree with increasing SGA travel funding. For me, it's just very interesting hearing that now, because I was a proponent and voted for an action that happened in one of our very first Senate meetings this year, increasing the graduate student travel funding. I think the motion was started with Marissa, and it was very great. It was just an increase of $5,000 from a ton of money that we had to work with, and I'm totally for trying to get that started. It's just interesting how the SGA at the beginning of the year was very much against working for that. Yeah, that's it.
AJ, you have 30 seconds.
So obviously being a part of the Board of Trustees is a very important aspect of this position as SGA President. And one word you'll hear thrown around from now until next Tuesday, more than any other word, is a voice. Your voice, our voice, however you say it. But I just wanted to make the notation here that's very important to understand that voice that we have on the Board of Trustees is a collective voice.
To respond to the first of those issues, I would like to point out that I am not a senator and I did not have a vote on that measure to increase the $500,000. But also, there were a number of senators who spoke up against it, and to be honest, I think it's a little bit of a sign of misunderstanding on the part of undergraduates for how graduate students aren't really getting the resources that they need, and that is one thing that I want to make evident if elected so that I can change that. And with regard to the voice comment, it is definitely a collective voice, but one thing I've discovered is that SGA doesn't have a voice alone. Your voice becomes the most powerful when you find an ally in another administrator, and that is something that I would like parents to do as well.
A little bit along the same lines as money. As SGA President, you're responsible for seeing all aspects of SGA, including SAB and ELSB. What will you do to ensure that these groups spend student dollars responsibly and on events and activities that all students, are interested in? Jeremy, you can go.
All right. So ELSB was actually last year when I was the vice president for Speed School. I was the one who wrote the legislation to make ELSB an arm of SGA. And they've done amazing stuff this year, but I think with it, since it's so new, we didn't really put many restrictions as far as what their budget should be put on, and so they just kind of had this money and didn't know quite maybe where to go with it at first. So I think one thing to definitely work with the ELSB and SAB on is first having very, very clear connections and communication between SGA, or the top four, and these groups. Sitting down with the ELSB and really making a plan for what they want to do throughout the year, what they can really bring to students would be very important. And same with SAB, making sure that what we do is something students really want to go out to, instead of having a pep rally where we don't get nearly the student input into compared to the money we put into it. And that's really it for now.
So to this question, I would say that my focus would be really playing a huge hands-on approach, if you will, to let's take the Student Activities Board, for example. I don't want to send someone to report back, a liaison, if you will. I want to send a member of the top four to those meetings, see where exactly they want to allocate this money, and what they intend on doing to really engage students in this campus community. One other thing I'd just like to point out, I know I am an extremely funny guy, but I didn't think this was a comedy show, so I just want to make sure everybody knew I had heard some laughter up here. So.
I think that we took a step in the right direction last year when the Office of Student Activities decided to play a larger role in auditing all of those funds as they were being spent. But I agree with what a couple of my opponents have said about how that money isn't necessarily tracked by SGA. In the Senate, we pass a budget, and then we never really see the balance of that budget, or how much we've spent and how much we haven't. And rather than appointing a member of the top 4 to go to those meetings, because I think that top 4 members are very busy, I would be very interested in appointing a budget director with finance experience to go to attend whatever meetings are necessary and to track that and to make a presentation at every Senate meeting so that we know exactly where that money is going, which is particularly important because if the promise from President Ramsey stands, we will be getting another $200,000 increase next year.
Okay. So with that question, although SGA has been receiving increased, this budget has been increased, do you find it truly fair that the top 4, the higher members of SAB are constantly receiving pay increases while other members of SGA are not, and other programs are being underfunded? Carrie?
No, I don't think it is fair. I spoke earlier about my experience as a senator, and I can tell you that I put many hours and hours into that job, and I was paid $40-something for it at the end of the year. So one thing I would like to work with the executive vice president to do with remuneration is to make it somehow incentive-based, depending on how much you actually accomplished in Senate that year, because I agree it is not at all ethical to be increasing our pay. And I am proud to say that we haven't increased our pay this year, and we did make the decision last year, and I was very vocal in supporting freezing tuition so that that didn't continue to eat into SGA's operating costs.
I'll also touch on the freeze that was implemented. I think that I would like to do something very similar in terms of the freeze on the spending for those different organizations. Obviously, we support growth and want everyone to get, a great organization together that continues to foster in this environment. However, we understand that there are various students on this campus with various interests, and that other organizations require funding as well. So the idea of the freeze isn't to handicap anybody, but rather to support those up-and-coming organizations.
Thanks, AJ.
All right, thank you, Brandon. I definitely agree that we worked last year, we freezed the budget because we didn't know quite whether we were going to get the extra $200,000 or not for this year. And it's actually, there was, for those of you that weren't here at the Senate meeting earlier today, there was a resolution submitted by EVP candidate Elizabeth Delaney to change that so that the payment that the top 4 get match tuition, which is fine, but I don't know if quite what our time should go towards is paying the top 4. I feel like we could have used our SGA money for this year for something else, or for next year. As far as what else we could put the money towards instead of paying the top 4, when I spoke with former SGA President Curtis Frizzell, one of the big things he talked about is near the end of the year when they had so much extra money, they just started funding it out to groups, and that's where they saw the biggest impact that SGA could have. There's $1,500 put towards the Pink Drag Show that's put on every year, and that was an amazing experience. And I think if we do more funding like that, that is how SGA can make the biggest impact with these increased budgets.
After I ask each of you all a pointed question, if you want some form of rebuttal, we can look at that because you may want to respond, because these will be more of the controversial issues, because I think they have to do specifically with you. So that wants to attack you and not feel like you have a chance. Okay, so we will start, and Jeremy, would you mind to go first?
Sure.
Okay. There's been a lot of discussion over the past week about your marketing and ad campaign that's been around that's been very controversial with your use of images that members of our community and our campus find very controversial and find as it's not taken very well. I guess that's the best way to say it. And those images are still being used by your campaign. So the question is, well, first, can you address this issue? And if elected, how are you going to ensure that issues like this do not arise again? And how are you going to represent minorities? And there's a lot in that, but you can kind of bring it all together. You have a minute.
All right, thank you, Brandon. It's actually, I was hoping to get to address this issue here. So I'm sure those of you that have seen it, it is the raised hand, a white raised hand that is our logo. It was actually taken from a workers' revolution symbol. We like Google revolutions back in the 1950s. And with that, it is predominantly known as the Black Power movement symbol. Monday night, as soon as SGA candidates had started, there was a big thread on our Facebook page where it was discussed. And I'm not sure who on our admin had taken it down, but I went out and talked with the people who wanted to discuss being upset about this symbol. And I've gone out multiple times to discuss with these groups and apologize for it. And even though we couldn't change it since we had already ordered everything, we've talked about how we can at least compromise and move forward. And again, if any of you are here tonight, Hilton, I don't know if you're here, but I apologize. I hope this can work. And I'll talk about the second half in the rebuttal.
Okay. Do you all want to respond to that? Carrie, you have 30 seconds.
First of all, I want to certainly commend Jeremy and his soul slate for publicly apologizing for offending those people. I did have a chance to read the thread before it was taken down, and one thing in particular caught my attention, and it was that a justification for continuing to use the symbol was that campaign items had already been ordered and money had already been spent. And I think I just found that a very insensitive response, and although I definitely understand how expensive these campaigns are, I think that I might have taken an approach to contact the Supreme Court and see if there was anything that could be done to increase funding or to resolve the issue so that logo didn't have to be used anymore.
Okay.
On that issue, I had seen it become an issue on the Facebook page first and saw the developments of that case. And really the only thing I have to add here is to kind of appreciate what Jeremy did. I spoke with him shortly after, and he told me about how he went and made an effort to meet with those individuals. And so I think that speaks volumes.
Okay. The next question that kind of goes along. Do you want a second to kind of respond to all that? Yeah, go for it.
Because I feel this is a big issue.
It's a big issue. Yes.
I guess first off, it's really hard to say it's insensitive and then just take down all of our campaign material when almost $2,000 had gone into it and we couldn't replace it. And with a $3,000 cap and only 2 weeks to campaign, there's not much time to go back and redo everything we had ordered and then only have to do not nearly as much as what we had. When I talked to the groups, they were okay with the apology and working towards a future where we can avoid these kind of situations. And with the second part of the question, it was just, I honestly want to make sure that my cabinet is much diverse next year. I've even been considering talking with Hilton about making sure he is even on our marketing team, because I feel he is just has a lot of experience in being able to think from different perspectives that maybe I might not be able to think of by my own.
Okay. This question is kind of just came in, and I'm going to kind of go off script a little bit. Each of your campaigns has talked about the transparency that SGA should put forward. So this question kind of revolves around this issue, and then how would you act as SGA president, making sure that you are transparent about any controversial issues? The question arises that the campaign chose to take down the post, to remove all of the comments off of your page, which is a form of censorship, I guess, and not being transparent about the issues. So could each of you all talk about 30 seconds or so about censorship and about transparency and how that would reflect in your administration? Jeremy.
As far as the post coming down, it was actually not one of my decisions. It was one of our other admins had taken it down, and sadly it wasn't a hide, it was a delete. Luckily, people did save all of the comments, so it's up on a Tumblr now. People can see it. It's still out there. And as for transparency in the future, I just feel it's really important to be available to students. I feel like the SGA website right now could use a bit updating to make sure that people know what's going on and really being able to address students. And that's time.
Yeah, you all can all comment. Just 30 seconds or so, yeah, about censorship and just about transparency in SGA in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this brings up a good topic. We talk about diversity on this campus. I know when you talk about Lexington, you say people from UK are from all over the state, which is great. And then you talk about U of L and you think people are from all over the world, and it's really true. But diversity to me, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's about diversity in thought and how we can share ideas to make this a more effective environment. And so I was brought up under the impression that differences are never a bad thing, especially in a leadership role. So I would embrace any differences and any opinions shared by someone else.
Thanks, Andrew. Carrie?
Transparency. I was going to speak briefly about the website, but Jeremy kind of beat me to it. We noticed that there were a couple of things missing from the website recently, and we've taken action to fix those things. And I also think that it's been a little bit unfortunate that our Senate hasn't done a whole lot this year, but I will say every single initiative that I have been a part of as AVP, I've made sure that it has been on the website and that it has been on Facebook and shared in public, which is huge when it comes to transparency. And someone also, I think during the EVP mentioned an open door policy. I think that SGA executive officers should have to have office hours.
Carrie, this next question will start with you. This is an audience submitted question. It's a great question because it's a graduate question. Not that you undergraduates aren't, but graduates. Okay. The SWOT analysis of the 21st Century Initiative has highlighted that the university is very fragmented, especially in terms of the HSE and Belknap campuses, between undergraduates, graduate, and professional students. So how will you work to fix this divide, especially within conjunction with the 21st Century Initiative and SWOT analysis?
As I mentioned earlier, I think that we have an issue with culture because those of us on the Belknap campus get lost when we try to go to the HSC campus and vice versa. And I think that we ask a lot of our HSC senators by asking them to come to the Belknap campus so often. One of the themes throughout my platform is that we cannot expect to engage students, and we can't expect students to change their preconceived notions about SGA without going to them. We can have as many SGA Cares events as we would like, but I think that it's really sad that the campaign season is the only time when SGA officers go around campus on both of the campuses to address the question and actually talk to students and hear their concerns and their opinions on current initiatives. So that is the route I would take. I think that we need to have a student from Belknap going to graduate school council meetings because undergraduates are very well represented and we associate with them a lot. Arts and sciences, business, so we know what they're thinking, but we don't get the graduate perspective as much as we should.
Thank you, Carrie. You have a minute.
Actually, I guess kind of timely, I spoke with some graduate students today from the HSC campus, and they were commenting, and they said, we really like what you had to offer, but we can't vote in those elections, and so they just feel very detached from campus. Obviously that's a falsehood. One thing I learned here, actually, in a course at U of L, was that if you want to make people feel involved, you have to make them part of the process, and they need to be part of our process, quite frankly. And the way we do it can be, done a couple different ways. My idea would be to create a liaison position who would then go to their council meetings, bring back their ideas, and see if we can't work together to accomplish the same goal.
Thanks. Jeremy?
This past year has been a very interesting experience for me. As with being in my fourth year at Speed School, I've actually had a mixture of undergraduate and graduate classes, and with these 500 plus level classes, I've been in these classes with the graduate students and PhD students and really gotten to hear their concerns and really seeing where their focuses are in SGA and what they really care about, which at least I can speak for the graduate students at Speed School, that's mainly doing their research or going to conferences, all those fun things. As for HSC campus, I think the most important thing we can do to feel like these students actually, let them really actually matter, is to outreach. Ever since I was Director of Student Affairs for Speed Council, it's been very important for me to outreach to students and see what really their concerns is, whether that's through forums or just walking around Duthie and asking people at tables, hey, what do you think of this? So I would have no concern going down to HSC campus and just reaching out to graduate students, seeing how they feel, and really getting an opinion and seeing what we can do to make SGA better for undergraduates and graduates.
Okay. I'm going to ask you all a couple more questions. These are just going to be kind of 30-second, small topic kind of things, but I think it's important to address them. This question kind of has to revolve around staffing. As soon as you're elected SGA president, normally one of the first thing you do is you start to think about how you will staff your office. When you answer this question, think about money and think about what you know about SGA in general. If elected SGA president, what kind of a staff do you see yourself assembling, whether large or small? Please state why, and tell how that fits into your overall vision of SGA. Jeremy, you can start. Just about 30 seconds.
All right. I always feel that the staff is one of the most hardworking parts of SGA, especially in the executive branch, and sometimes one of the most underappreciated sections. It's one of the groups that do most of the work and don't get much thanks. When searching out and getting the people for staff next year, I think it's important to think about all parts of campus, having speed schoolers, business schoolers, graduate students, those down at HSC. Just one, to get people's different perspectives on how SGA can help, or will this event really help everybody? And we'll work on it.
Thanks. AJ?
As far as who would make up this staff, I would definitely have it be a small group rather than a large group. I think that you can manage more that way and really go out and achieve whatever you're after. But more importantly to me, I think it comes down to our campus. In my opinion and my vision is that our campus is an extended branch of my staff, and I would really be looking to get their voice to be heard equally, if not more, than my own staff.
When it comes to hiring staff, my top priority would be giving staff members more specified individual roles. Some of the staff positions that have evolved over the years, they're called things like Director of Student Life, and it's like, well, what on earth does that person actually do? And then at the end of the year, we ask ourselves, well, what did that person do? And it's kind of a struggle. So one thing that I would like to have prepared in advance for when we interview people for staff is a list of what those responsibilities would be and what they would look like in our expectations. And I would also be interested in hiring people who are not looking for these positions for their resume, but because they're willing to spend time in office and to make SGA more visible to students.
Okay. And the 30-second question, Carrie, you can start this one. What skills do you have that make you above and beyond the other two candidates?
What skills do I have? One thing that I think everybody in the room knows is that I am very experienced when it comes to the executive side of SGA, and that's not just from me being the current academic vice president. When I was senator, I worked very, very closely with the executive branch. But one thing that I think any top 4 member, no matter how many years back, would tell you is that when you get into office, you spend more time than you would like navigating the position and figuring out who you go to for what questions. And sometimes big initiatives are they get done because of asking very simple questions to the right person. And I think that if elected, I would not have to spend nearly as much of that time navigating the office. And this isn't just, again, from my role as AVP, but ever since I was a freshman, I've been paying acute attention to everything that has happened in SGA. And I think that continuity is especially important, especially for big initiatives such as the Rec Center that we talked about today.
Thanks, Gary. Adrian?
I would say that as far as SGA roles, it's kind of like getting put in the fire, and you really have to learn fast. I don't think that a top 4 position would be essentially a stepping stone. So now you've put in the time to learn, and now you can do it. I would be ready to go. But I would say that my ability to listen would be number 1. I mean, if you look to your left and you look to your right tonight, that's the voice that we need to hear. And then secondly would be experience. I know Carrie mentioned experience, but I feel that in the leadership positions I've held on this campus, I have the experience that counts.
I'm going to try to keep it just to three things. First being, one of the big things with the president is to really work with the budget as well. And both as speed school president and in my different co-ops with in my industrial engineering setting, both at UPS and Universal Studios, I've had to deal with massive budgets. When I was at Universal, my boss and I worked with a budget of over $200,000 just to add in like one little kiosk into our Harry Potter park. I think another big thing is, part of my leadership style is being an includer, and I feel it's important that with your staff to really make sure that everybody feels included. I remember talking to the current Chief of Staff, Spencer Scruggs, back at the beginning of the year about how he didn't feel very important and included with the top four, and how he just wasn't included in their meetings, and I don't want that to have to happen again this year. So.
And last 30-second question, I guess. If you are not elected, what do you see your role on campus being over the next year?
Well, there's a couple things I've been thinking about with if being not elected. One idea I've been toying with is maybe just doing the Disney College program for a semester. That might be fun, getting out there. Being a pirate for a semester. Other than that, the other things I'm interested in is definitely applying probably for an SAB chair. My freshman year, I got really involved with what was the diversity committee, which was mainly putting on student events. I think it became student life now. Either that and possibly working with Marissa and being on graduate council next year and really starting to work from that perspective with students in SGA.
Thanks. AJ?
If I was not elected for the position, I would say my goals would to be to continue doing a lot of what I'm doing now, only taking a step further and I guess taking to the next level of housing. I know I mentioned that I've been an RA for quite a long time. Actually started that job since the second semester of my freshman year, so it's been forever. But the reason why I stay with it is not for consistency purposes, but because I believe that is a really important and impactful role on campus. You know, with the freshman mandate, living on campus, I think we have a really big opportunity to impact a lot of lives and our future.
If I'm not elected, I assume that I would be contacted to serve on a multitude of committees, and I would certainly be available to do that. One item in my platform that I haven't been able to really touch on directly has been my commitment to bringing back K-HELP, which is the Kentucky Higher Education Lobbying Program. We've already identified rising tuition as a top concern, and I would really like to be one of those students going back and forth to Frankfurt and speaking about that to legislators to bring that information back to SGA.
Jeremy went last for opening remarks, so I think it's only fair that you go first for closing. So you will each have 1 minute for your closing remarks. Before they do that, I want to thank you all again for coming out. Elections go up online next Monday at 12:01 a.m. and they will go till Thursday at 12:01 a.m. But I do want to make you all aware that we will not release the results if there's any pending court type action, which there is already, so you're going to have to wait. But with that, I invite you all then to come out to those. Those are always fun and interesting show of the judicial system. But I ask you to vote next week. Get out, tell your classes. Do not be afraid to stand up in your class and to say that it is going on, and say that people should get on and vote and inform people. There's a lot of information on the SGA website. It'll all be done through ULink. But other than that, I really encourage you all to get out the vote, and whatever you do. And I thank you all again for coming. But then we'll finish with these closing remarks. Jeremy.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. And I'll sit down for the closing too this time. As you said, thank you all for coming out tonight. Just seeing the amount of people here means that we are growing as far as a campus who cares about SGA and who really gets to represent us. I believe that next year is going to be a very important year in SGA. After having a year like this where not a lot has gone through Senate, and a lot of the initiatives that we started 2 years ago under President Frizzell have gone through unfulfilled. it is important to have a leader who, one, knows how SGA has been for the past 3 years, which, with my experience with my council and being very involved in the SGA, I feel like I can continue on with our initiatives. And more than that, I think it's important to have a leader that's going to reach out to students. I'm not the politician type of person. For those of you that know me, I'm not one to just go for an office or go just to be a president. I'm here because I feel it is the right thing. It is the right thing to represent you all, and I want your voices included in it. And we can't have another year like this year.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
First off, I agree. And next, I would like to address the subtle issue that's been brought up with SGA president being a stepping stone. And as you've heard, I was a task force freshman. I was a senator. I was a vice president, and now I'm running for president. And trust me, this is not to build my resume. Not after the last couple of weeks that we've had and the stress that has gone through those things. I am running for this position because I witnessed a lot of changes happen in SGA, as Jeremy said a couple of years ago, and a lot of those promises have gone unfulfilled. And earlier in the debate, I think that a lot of my AVP initiatives were criticized, but I would like to say that last year when I won my election with quite a margin, that was a very, very popular student stance, and I promised to move forward with it, and I have done literally everything in my power and researched every detail to make that happen. And I can say with confidence that I believe the A+ initiative will be passed this semester. Thank you again so much for coming. I encourage you to check out the platforms on websites because we did not really get to touch on all of our items here tonight, given the other questions, but thank you. I don't think SGA needs a revolution. I just think that we need to return to accountability and getting things done.
AJ, you got the last minute.
I will take a second just to once again extend our gratitude for you guys coming out and supporting us. That's the reason we're up here, so I'm glad you all are in the audience. I'll be very brief with my closing statement. When it comes down to it, I don't want to be a force for the student body. Instead, I want the student body itself to be a force for this university. My promise to each of you is that together we can create change on this campus, and I intend to make sure that, that your voice is the voice of student government. While this is the I Lead Lou campaign, I want to ensure you that this is the We Lead Lou commitment. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you all really for coming, sitting through this hour and around 50-minute debate. I ask that you all, again, get out the vote and, yeah, have fun on the next